The rain fell steadily outside, painting the city in shades of gray. Inside a small cafe on the corner street, the smell of fresh bread and warm tea filled the air. People sat in groups, some laughing, some whispering, some staring into their phones. But in the farthest corner, near the fogged window, a man sat quietly, waiting. His name was Armin. His shoulders carried the weight of many silent years. His hands rested around a teacup that had already lost its warmth. He had ordered it an hour ago, but he had barely touched it. His eyes moved again and again toward the glass door, as if he was expecting someone important. Armin was a single father. Life had not been gentle with him. 3 years ago, his wife had passed away, leaving him with their only daughter, Anya, who was just a child then. Since that day, his world became smaller. Work, home, and his daughter, those were the only 3 pieces of his life. He worked 2 jobs, one at a repair shop during the day and one as a night guard, just so he could pay rent and school fees. Every evening, he came home tired, but he tried to smile for Anya, to help her with homework, to listen to her stories. Yet when the night grew quiet, loneliness pressed hard on his chest. That was why this evening felt different. Earlier in the day, he had received a message from an old friend, someone from his past. The words were short: "Let's meet. Same cafe, evening." The message was unexpected, but it stirred something inside him. Maybe, he thought, it was time he let someone back into his life. Maybe a friend could remind him that the world still held kindness. Now, as the minutes stretched, doubt began to whisper. What if the friend had changed? What if he didn't show up at all? Armin sighed and rubbed his forehead. His reflection in the window showed a man with tired eyes, hair touched with early gray, and lines that came from more worry than age. The bell above the cafe door rang softly as someone entered. Armin looked up, his heart lifting with hope. But the person who stepped in was not the friend he remembered. Instead, it was a woman he had never seen before. She carried a black umbrella, its edges dripping with rain. Her long coat was the color of ivory, buttoned neatly up to her collar. She moved with calmness, yet her presence drew attention, for she seemed too graceful for the modest cafe. Her dark hair framed her face, and her eyes, sharp yet sad, scanned the room until they rested on him. Without hesitation, she walked directly toward Armin's table. He straightened in surprise, unsure why a stranger was approaching him. "Are you Armin?" Her voice was soft but clear, touched with the melody of Chinese tones. He blinked. "Yes, but I was waiting for someone else." She placed a folded envelope on the table between them. "I know," she said simply. "You were waiting for a friend. But that friend will not come. Instead, I am here. And I have something you must see." Armin's brows drew together. Confusion stirred in his chest. "Who are you?" he asked carefully. The woman lowered herself into the chair opposite him. She placed her umbrella aside and smoothed her coat with a composed hand. For a moment, she only looked at him, as if weighing whether to speak or stay silent. "My name is Mylan," she finally said. "I came because the truth you deserve has been hidden for too long." Her words made little sense to him, but the seriousness in her eyes made his heart beat faster. He glanced at the envelope on the table. Its presence seemed heavy, as though it carried more than paper inside. "I don't understand," Armin admitted. "Why would my friend send you instead? What truth are you talking about?" Mylan leaned forward slightly. Her voice lowered, but it carried a firmness that demanded his attention. Because betrayal hides where you least expect it. The one you trusted may not be who you believe. The cafe around them carried on with normal life, plates clinking, spoons stirring, laughter rising. But for Armin, the world seemed to pause. He felt as if a storm was rising inside the small envelope that sat untouched before him. His fingers trembled slightly as he reached toward it, but he pulled back. "Why should I believe you?" he asked, his voice heavy with caution. "You don't have to believe me yet," Mylan said calmly. "But once you open that envelope, you will see what cannot be denied." Her words left an echo in his heart. He looked at her again, her calm posture, her steady eyes, her foreign grace. She was not from his world of daily struggle, yet she had come carrying something that seemed to know him too well. Armin sat in silence. His thoughts ran in circles. He had come to the cafe expecting to meet an old friend, to find comfort in simple conversation. Instead, a stranger had arrived, carrying proof of something that could change his life. The rain outside grew heavier, and the glass window shivered with each drop. Inside, the envelope waited between them, silent but powerful. Armin's hand finally reached out. His fingers touched the edge of the paper, and his heart pounded like a drum. He did not yet open it. But in that moment, he knew whatever truth lay inside would not only change his evening. It could change the story of his entire life. The envelope lay on the wooden table like a quiet storm. Armin stared at it, his fingers resting near its edge but not daring to pull it open. His mind was heavy with questions. Who was this woman? Why had she come in place of his old friend? And what could be inside the envelope that seemed to shake her calm voice? Across from him, Mylan watched in silence. Her expression was steady, yet there was a trace of sadness in her eyes, as if she carried the burden of someone else's pain. The cafe's warm lights reflected on her face, softening her sharp features, but her presence still felt powerful. Finally, Armin took a deep breath and slid the envelope open. Inside were several photographs, folded neatly together, and a few documents with typed words and signatures. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled out the first photo. At once, his chest tightened. The picture showed a familiar face, his late wife, Amina. She was standing beside a man Armin had never seen before. The man's hand rested casually on her shoulder, and they were both smiling, as if sharing a secret the world did not need to know. Armin's breath caught. For a moment, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. But the photo was clear, too clear. He flipped to another picture. It was again Amina with the same man, this time seated together at a restaurant, leaning close, talking with comfort that spoke of closeness. His throat went dry. No, the word left his lips without strength. This can't be true. Mylan spoke gently but firmly. It is true. The man you see is my uncle. He was a businessman in China who worked with people across borders. He met your wife many years ago. Their meetings were not only about business. They had another connection. Armin shook his head quickly, as if the denial could erase the photographs. His wife had been his world. He had carried her memory with honor, raising their daughter in her absence with love. To think of betrayal in her heart, it tore at something deep inside him. You are lying, he whispered, but the photograph still burned in his hands. Mylan's voice softened. I understand your pain. If I were in your place, I would not want to believe either. But these are not only pictures. The documents prove even more. He looked at the papers. They were contracts, letters, and bank transfers, all pointing to connections between Amina and this man he never knew. Dates matched the years when Armin remembered his wife traveling to visit relatives. At that time, he had trusted her without question. The cafe around him faded into blur. The sound of rain outside, the clatter of cups, the murmur of voices, it all seemed far away. All that remained was the sharp ache in his chest and the woman sitting across from him who had placed this truth in his hands. Armin pressed his fingers to his forehead. His world felt like it was splitting apart. Why are you showing me this now?" he asked in a broken tone. Milan's gaze did not waver. "Because lies must not remain hidden. My uncle is gone now, and with his passing, certain truths came to light. I learned about you, about your daughter, about the life you have lived without knowing. I could not remain silent. You deserve to know." He closed his eyes for a moment, fighting the sting that threatened to break through. His daughter, Anya, came to his mind. Her innocent smile, her laughter, her trust. How could he carry this knowledge and still keep her world safe? She adored her mother's memory. If she ever learned of this betrayal, it could shatter her young heart. Armin opened his eyes and looked at Milan again. "Do you expect me to tell my daughter? To destroy what little memory of her mother she holds?" "No," Milan said softly. "That choice is yours. But you must at least hold the truth for yourself. Sometimes the past we believe in is not the past that truly existed." Silence stretched between them. Armin's hands dropped to the table, the papers and photographs scattered before him. He wanted to throw them away, to deny them, but a voice inside whispered that the truth was already carved into his heart. After a long pause, he asked, "Why you? Why not someone else to bring this truth?" Milan's eyes lowered for the first time, her calm mask cracking slightly. "Because this betrayal touched my own family too. My uncle's choices caused pain not only to you, but also to us. My family tried to hide it, but I could not let another man live in darkness while believing in a false memory. Perhaps, in some way, this is also my attempt to make peace." Her honesty, quiet and steady, struck him. He leaned back in his chair, feeling drained. He had come expecting warmth from an old friend, but instead, he was left with ashes of trust and a storm of confusion. The rain outside began to slow, drops falling less heavily, but inside Armin's heart the storm had only begun. He gathered the photos with shaking hands and slid them back into the envelope. For now, he could not look at them anymore. As he rose from his chair, he felt as if the weight of the world pressed down on his shoulders. "I don't know if I can believe you," he said quietly. "But if what you say is true, then my life has been built on shadows." Milan stood too, her eyes following him with calm sadness. "The truth is never easy. But sometimes, it is the only thing that sets us free." Armin left the cafe, the envelope clutched tightly in his hand. The streets were wet and shining under the faint light of street lamps. Each step felt heavy, as though he was walking into an unknown future where nothing he once trusted was the same. And behind him, through the cafe window, Milan watched, knowing that this was only the beginning of the storm. The night air was damp as Armin walked through the streets, the envelope pressed tightly under his arm. The glow of street lamps reflected on the wet pavement, stretching shadows with each of his slow steps. His heart was heavy, as though each beat carried both disbelief and sorrow. He had left the cafe behind, but the stranger's voice still echoed inside him. "The truth is never easy. But sometimes, it is the only thing that sets us free." Armin wanted to throw the envelope into the nearest bin, to forget the photographs and the papers. But each time his fingers tightened around it, he remembered the faces he had seen: his wife, smiling beside a man who was not him. That smile, once his greatest comfort, now carried the power to wound him deeply. The city around him bustled quietly. Shops were closing, buses passed with their tired passengers, and laughter rose from a group of students running through the rain. All of them lived lives untouched by his private storm. He felt like a man moving through a world that no longer belonged to him. When he finally reached his apartment building, the lights inside the windows felt warmer than ever. He climbed the narrow stairs with slow steps, his mind clouded. By the time he unlocked the door, he forced himself to hide every trace of sorrow from his face. Inside, little Anya was waiting. She was sitting on the couch, a blanket around her small shoulders, a drawing book open on her lap. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. "Papa. You're late," she said with a pout. "I was waiting to show you my picture." Armin's lips curved into a tired smile. "I'm sorry, Anya. The rain made me late." He set the envelope on a high shelf, out of her sight, and walked over to her. She held up the page proudly. It was a picture of their small family, herself, her papa, and her mama, all drawn with bright colors and big smiles. "See? Mama is standing next to you. She looks happy, doesn't she?" The words cut into his heart. He looked at the drawing and felt a lump form in his throat. To Anya, her mother was a shining memory, untouched by time or doubt. For Armin, the drawing was a reminder of what he had just discovered, a secret that threatened to break the image his daughter held so dearly. "Yes," he whispered, brushing her hair gently. "Mama looks happy." Anya smiled, satisfied, and returned to her coloring. Armin sat beside her, forcing his face to remain calm. But inside, questions tore at him. Should he ever tell Anya the truth? Should he allow her to live with the beautiful memory she carried, even if it was built on lies? That night, after putting Anya to bed, Armin sat alone by the window. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the pale moonlight. He pulled the envelope close, opening it again even though it pained him. The photograph stared back, unchanged, uncaring of his turmoil. For hours, he studied them. He remembered the times when Amina had been absent, when she said she was visiting relatives or running errands. He remembered his own trust, his unquestioning love. Could all of it have been a mask? And then another thought struck him, colder than the first. If Amina had shared such closeness with another man, then what did that mean about the foundation of his own family? What did that mean for his daughter? Armin buried his face in his hands. The quiet of the night pressed down on him, broken only by the soft sound of Anya's breathing from her room. He knew he could not run from the truth forever. The next morning, the world seemed unchanged. The sun rose, children went to school, workers hurried to their jobs. But for Armin, every step felt different, heavier. He dropped Anya at school, kissed her on the forehead, and watched her run inside with her small backpack bouncing. Her innocence was untouched, and he vowed to keep it that way, at least for now. Later that day, as he worked at the repair shop, his hands struggled to focus. Each sound of a hammer or tool reminded him of the photographs tucked in his jacket. His co-workers noticed his distraction but said nothing. By evening, as he left work, he found Mylan waiting outside. She stood calmly, her ivory coat catching the golden glow of the setting sun. People walked past her, not knowing the weight of the truth she carried. Armin's steps slowed. His first instinct was to walk away, but something inside him pulled him closer. "You again," he said, his tone guarded. Mylan inclined her head politely. I did not want to disturb you. But I hoped we could talk. There is more you need to understand. Armin's jaw tightened. Haven't you done enough already? My world was simple before yesterday. Now it feels like a stranger's life. Her eyes softened. I know. But the truth has layers. What I gave you was only the beginning. There is something even more important you must hear. Armin stood in silence, torn between anger and curiosity. Finally, he sighed. If you have more to say, then speak. But do not expect me to accept everything easily. Mylan nodded. I only ask that you listen. Together, they walked slowly toward the quiet park nearby. The evening air was cool, and the trees whispered in the breeze. Armin glanced at her, wondering again why a woman from another country would take the trouble to bring such painful truth into his life. And as they reached a bench beneath the trees, Mylan finally spoke. The betrayal you saw was not only about love. It was also about something greater, something that connects your life to mine in ways you cannot yet imagine. Armin froze at her words. He thought he had already faced the worst. But the way she said it made him realize his trials had only just begun. The park was nearly empty. Only a few people walked slowly on the narrow paths, while others sat quietly on benches. The soft evening wind carried the smell of wet earth, and the sky above turned from gold to deep blue. Armin sat on a wooden bench, his hands resting on his knees, while Mylan stood for a moment before sitting beside him. For a while, neither spoke. The silence was heavy, but it was not empty. Armin felt the weight of her words already pressing on him. The betrayal was not only about love. It was also about something greater. Finally, he broke the silence. You told me my wife betrayed me. You gave me pictures, documents. That was enough to shake my world. What else could there be? What is left to say? Mylan folded her hands in her lap. Her eyes looked far ahead, as if she was speaking not only to him but also to the shadows of her own past. The man in those photographs, my uncle, was not only a businessman. He was involved in matters hidden from most eyes. Powerful families, secret deals, and money that moved quietly across borders, those were his world. And your wife, she became part of it? Armin's heart thudded in his chest. He turned sharply to face her. Are you saying my wife was part of crime? Of corruption? Mylan shook her head slowly. Not crime as you imagine. But secrets, yes. She held knowledge of things she was never meant to know. And through her, your life too was touched by it, though you never realized. Armin clenched his fists. He had lived his life working honestly, fixing broken things, guarding buildings at night, struggling each day for his daughter. To think that, beside him, his wife might have been walking paths filled with hidden power and secret betrayals, it felt like a cruel twist of fate. Why are you telling me this? He asked, his voice sharp. Why not leave me to live in peace with whatever lies I believed? Mylan's eyes turned toward him, calm but unyielding. Because your peace is already broken. And because my family's choices touched your family too. The truth is like fire. Hidden, it smolders and spreads in silence. But once revealed, it burns openly, and only then can it die. Armin rubbed his forehead, his mind clouded. What connection could there be now? My wife is gone. Your uncle is gone. The past cannot be changed. Mylan's voice lowered. But their past left something behind. Something that is not finished yet. Armin stared at her, confusion deepening. What do you mean? She hesitated for a moment, as if weighing her words carefully. The documents you saw, they were not only about money. They also spoke of trust accounts, assets, and hidden agreements. Some of it was written under your wife's name. Which means, whether you wished it or not, you and your daughter are tied to it even today. Armin felt a chill spread through him. Tied to it? I don't want anything from that world. I never asked for it. I know, Mylan said gently. But the world does not ask for permission before placing weight on our shoulders. Whether you claim it or not, others know of it. That is why I came to warn you. There are people who may come looking, not because of who you are, but because of what your wife once carried. The words struck him like a blow. He thought of Anya, her laughter, her innocence, her drawings of their family. The thought of shadows reaching toward her world filled him with fear. He looked at Mylan, his voice rough. So, you mean to say, my wife's choices may bring danger to me and my daughter now? Mylan did not answer immediately, but her silence was louder than words. Finally, she said, that is why I wanted you to know everything. So you can be ready. So you are not blind if the past comes knocking. Armin leaned back, his head heavy. The park lights flickered on, bathing the path in pale yellow. A family walked by, their children laughing freely, and he felt a sharp ache in his heart. He wished for that same simple joy, untouched by betrayal and shadows. After a long silence, he asked quietly, and what about you? Why involve yourself in this? You could have left me in ignorance. Mylan's eyes lowered, and for the first time, her composure softened. Because I, too, live in the shadow of my uncle's choices. I know what it means to carry pain that is not yours, yet still binds you. By telling you, I am not only giving you truth, I am also freeing myself from silence. Armin studied her face. She was strong, but there was sorrow hidden beneath her calmness. He realized that, like him, she too had been forced to face truths she did not ask for. The night deepened around them. Armin rose slowly from the bench. I need time, he said simply. Time to think, time to breathe. Mylan stood as well. She gave a small nod. I will not press you. But remember this, sometimes, knowing the truth may hurt. Yet not knowing can hurt even more. Armin walked away, his steps heavy, the envelope clutched tightly in his hand once again. Mylan watched him disappear into the shadows of the street, her own heart weighed down by what she had shared. As he walked home, Armin's mind swirled with questions. What did the documents truly mean? What danger might they bring? And most of all, how could he protect his daughter from a past she did not deserve? He did not yet know the answers. But he knew one thing with painful clarity: the life he had built on silence was gone. Now he stood on the edge of a storm that could sweep everything away. And somewhere deep inside, though he resisted it, a spark of fear whispered that Mylan's arrival was not an end, but only the beginning. The next few days passed like a blur for Armin. He went through his daily routine, waking up early, preparing breakfast, dropping Anya at school, working long hours, and returning late at night. On the outside, nothing seemed different. But inside, everything had changed. Every time he looked at his daughter, he felt the shadow of the envelope pressing against his heart. He had hidden it carefully in a drawer, locked away where Anya's curious hands could never reach. But even when it was out of sight, it was never out of mind. At work, his hands moved with less focus. A simple repair that should have taken minutes stretched into hours. His co-workers joked about his absent mind, but Armin only smiled weakly. He could not share the truth that haunted him. At night, he sat by the window after Anya had gone to bed. The documents replayed in his memory: contracts, transfers, hidden accounts. He wondered what kind of life his wife had lived in secret, and why she had chosen to hide it from him. Love, trust, betrayal, everything blended into a storm of confusion. One evening, after a particularly long day, Armin returned home to find Mylan waiting at the corner near his building. She stood with quiet patience, her ivory coat catching the glow of a street lamp. He hesitated at first, but then walked over to her. "You again," he said softly, without anger this time, but with tired resignation. "I said I would not press you," Mylan replied gently. "But I also knew you would have questions. And questions cannot be answered by silence." Armin sighed. "Questions? I have more than I can count. But answers? I am not sure I want them." Mylan's gaze was calm. "Even if you turn away, the truth will not disappear. You may ignore it, but others will not. That is why you must decide how to face it." They walked together down the quiet street, the sound of their steps echoing softly. Finally, Armin stopped near the entrance of his building. "Tell me plainly," he said, his voice steady. "What danger do you think may come to me and my daughter? Do not hide behind gentle words." Mylan looked at him carefully. "The documents your wife signed connected her to business deals that were not clean. Money passed through accounts under her name. Some people believe that money still exists, hidden somewhere. And because her name was tied to it, they may come looking to you." Armin's chest tightened. "But I know nothing of it. I have lived a simple life. I fix machines, I guard buildings. I have nothing to do with money or power." "I believe you," Mylan said softly. "But those who search for wealth do not always care about innocence. To them, your family is only a door to what they want. And if they cannot open the door with kindness, they may try with force." Armin felt a shiver run through him. He thought of Anya's small hands, her laughter, her trust. The idea of strangers reaching into their world filled him with fear and anger. He looked at Mylan sharply. "Then why come to me? Why not keep your silence? By telling me, you have only increased my fear." Her voice trembled slightly, though she kept her composure. "Because silence would not protect you. But knowing may give you a chance to prepare. And perhaps, it may give you the strength to protect what matters most." Armin turned his face away, staring at the shadows of the street. For a moment, he wished he could go back to the time before the cafe, before the envelope, before truth had cracked his world open. But wishes could not erase reality. After a long pause, he asked quietly, "Why should I trust you? You are a stranger to me. For all I know, you could be leading me into a trap." Mylan's eyes met his with steady honesty. "You are right to doubt me. Trust is not built in a day. But if I wanted harm for you, I would not have brought truth. I would have left you blind." Her words carried a strange comfort. Armin studied her face, strong, calm, yet carrying sorrow she never spoke aloud. Slowly, he gave a small nod. "For now, I will listen. But my daughter must never be touched by this. Do you understand?" "I understand," Mylan said. Her voice was soft, almost like a promise. That night, after she left, Armin returned to his apartment. He looked in on Anya, who was fast asleep, her small face peaceful under the blanket. He sat beside her bed, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "I will protect you," he whispered, though she could not hear. No matter what comes, you will not be touched by this darkness. But even as he spoke, he felt the weight of fear pressing harder. He knew that words were not enough. If danger truly came, he would need more than promises. He would need strength, and perhaps even allies. The days that followed carried a strange tension. At the repair shop, he noticed a man watching from across the street, though when Armin turned, the man disappeared into the crowd. At the market, he felt eyes on his back as he shopped for vegetables with Anya. Paranoia, perhaps. Or perhaps the storm Milan had warned about was already near. One evening, as he walked Anya home from school, she tugged at his hand and asked, "Papa, why do you look around so much these days? Are you looking for someone?" Armin forced a smile. "No, Anya. I'm just making sure the road is safe." She giggled. "You're always safe, Papa. Because you're strong." Her innocent words gave him a warmth he had almost forgotten. Yet at the same time, they deepened his resolve. He knew he could not allow fear to reach her. Later that night, as the wind howled outside their window, Armin sat once more with the envelope spread before him. His eyes studied the documents, his mind racing. Somewhere among these papers was a clue, a key to understanding what his wife had left behind. And if he could understand it, perhaps he could find a way to end the shadow before it reached his daughter. The decision formed quietly inside him. He would no longer sit as a man waiting for answers. He would search for them himself. And Milan, whether stranger or ally, might be the only one who could guide him through the maze of betrayal. The morning sun spilled golden light across the small apartment, brushing the walls with warmth. Anya laughed in the kitchen, holding a slice of bread as she balanced her school bag on one shoulder. Armin watched her with a bittersweet smile. Her innocence was a shield he longed to preserve, yet he knew the shadow of the past could reach them at any moment. He had made a decision overnight. The fear that had gripped him since Milan's revelation could no longer control his life. If secrets and betrayal threatened his family, he would face them head-on. But first, he needed information, clear facts that would guide him. After dropping Anya at school, he met Milan at a quiet cafe, different from the one where their journey began. She arrived with the same calm, poised presence, her dark hair catching the morning light. "You look determined," she said softly as she took a seat across from him. Armin nodded. "I cannot sit and wait anymore. I need to know the full truth. About my wife, about your uncle, about the money, and about anyone who might come after us." Milan studied him for a moment, then opened her laptop. "Very well," she said. "But be careful. Once we uncover more, there may be others who do not want this truth revealed. It is not just about knowledge, it is about survival." Armin's fingers clenched around his coffee cup. "I am ready. Whatever it takes." They spent hours reviewing the documents, photographs, and letters that Milan had gathered. Each page told part of a larger story, a web of connections, hidden transfers, and silent agreements. It became clear that Amina had been more involved in her husband's family business than Armin had ever realized. And though she had cared deeply for him and Anya, she had also carried secrets that put them both at risk. "See here," Milan said, pointing to a typed letter. "This shows her warning to my uncle. She did not agree with certain transfers. But she was overruled. And her name remained on the accounts. That is why your family is linked." Armin's jaw tightened. "So even if she tried to protect us, her name alone could draw danger." Milan nodded. "Exactly. That is why you cannot ignore it." Armin leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, but beneath it, determination was forming. He could not undo the past. But he could control the present. And he would ensure Anya's safety, no matter the cost. "Where do we start?" he asked finally. Mylan's gaze was steady. "We need to identify who may know about these accounts. There are records of transfers that only a few people would notice. We start by tracing them quietly, one by one." Armin felt a spark of resolve. "I can do that. I know how to observe, how to track, how to ask questions without revealing myself. I've learned to survive these past years. I will use every skill I have." The first step was gathering more information from safe sources. Mylan handed him a small notebook with names, dates, and locations. "These people are key. Some may help, some may not. But every detail matters." Over the next few days, Armin moved cautiously. He visited banks, offices, and old acquaintances who might provide clues. He kept Anya's life untouched, dropping her off and picking her up from school with smiles that hid the storm in his mind. Each interaction brought pieces of the puzzle together, revealing how deeply intertwined Amina's past had become with Mylan's family. One evening, after returning home, he found Mylan waiting outside again. She looked at him with quiet approval. "You have moved carefully," she said. "And quietly. That is exactly what we need." Armin sighed, exhaustion in his bones. "It is exhausting, every step. But I cannot stop. Every hour I delay is another hour our peace is at risk." She nodded. "And soon, we will know enough to act decisively. But remember, this knowledge is a weapon. Use it wisely. You may uncover people who would prefer the truth remain hidden." Armin clenched his fists. "I don't care about their preferences. My daughter is the only priority." That night, as he sat by the window, watching Anya sleep, he felt a quiet determination settle in his heart. The world of secrets, betrayal, and hidden dangers was vast, but he would not be a victim. He had taken the first step toward understanding, and the next step would be to confront the shadows. In the quiet of the apartment, the envelope sat on the table, along with the notebook and photographs. The storm of the past had not disappeared. But for the first time in weeks, Armin felt a flicker of hope, a belief that he could protect what mattered most. And somewhere in the shadows of the city, unknown to him, someone had begun to notice his careful moves. The game of hidden truths and silent threats was far from over. But Armin was ready to face it, for Anya, for himself, and for the memory of the woman he had loved and lost. As the moon rose high above the city, casting silver light across the quiet streets, Armin whispered softly to himself, "I will not let the past destroy what we have. I will find the truth, and I will protect her. Whatever it takes." The morning air was crisp, carrying the smell of wet leaves and the faint aroma of baking bread from a nearby shop. Armin stood by the window of his apartment, watching the city slowly wake. Today, he felt a strange mix of anxiety and resolve. The days of gathering information, following leads, and uncovering hidden truths had brought him to a moment of reckoning. Anya ran into the kitchen, her small backpack bouncing. "Papa! Look what I drew today," she said, holding up a picture. It was another drawing of their family, all smiling under a sunny sky. Armin smiled, kneeling to hug her. "It's wonderful, Anya. You always make everything brighter." Her innocent joy strengthened him. Whatever storm lay ahead, he knew he could not let it touch her. After school, Mylan arrived as promised. Her calm presence always carried a sense of control, and today was no different. She handed Armin an envelope containing the final pieces of evidence. They had traced records, names, and confirmations of the people tied to the hidden accounts. "We know who may come after you now," she said quietly. "We have the proof. But it is time to confront them carefully. No rash moves. You must act with wisdom." Armin nodded. The fear that had shadowed him for weeks was still there, but it had been replaced by a controlled determination. "I understand. It's time to end the uncertainty and protect our family." Together, they planned their approach. The people connected to Amina's past were contacted discreetly. Some were cooperative, surprised to see Armin taking charge. Others were reluctant, wary of what revealing the truth could bring. Through patience, negotiation, and firm honesty, Armin gradually uncovered the full picture. He learned that his wife had indeed tried to shield him and Anya from the dangerous parts of her past. While her name had been tied to accounts and agreements, she had left clues, letters, and warnings for the day someone like Armin would need them. In every photograph, every document, there was evidence that she had cared for them above all else. For the first time in weeks, Armin felt a warmth that was not tied to fear. His wife's memory, once clouded by betrayal, now shone as a testament to her love and sacrifice. He realized that she had been protecting them even when circumstances forced her into secrecy. That evening, Armin met Mylan one last time in the quiet cafe where it had all begun. "Everything is settled," he said, a soft relief in his voice. "No one will threaten us now. And I understand, my wife's choices were never against us. They were for us, in ways I couldn't see." Mylan smiled, a mixture of relief and pride in her expression. "You faced the storm and did not falter. That is rare. You protected what matters most, your daughter. And now, you can live without shadows over your family." Armin looked down at the envelope, then back at her. "Thank you, Mylan. I could not have done this alone. You showed me the truth, even when it hurt. You helped me find strength I didn't know I had." She nodded. "And you helped me face the past of my own family. Sometimes, helping others frees us from our own burdens." As they parted ways, Armin walked home through streets now bathed in the soft glow of twilight. Each step felt lighter. The envelope was tucked safely on his desk, a reminder not of betrayal, but of clarity, truth, and survival. At home, Anya greeted him with a hug and a tired smile. "Papa, can we play before dinner?" she asked. Armin laughed softly. "Of course, Anya. Let's enjoy today." They spent the evening playing board games, laughing, and sharing stories. For the first time in months, the apartment felt like a home untouched by fear. The past was no longer a shadow looming over them, it was a story that had shaped them, but did not define their present or future. Later, as Armin tucked Anya into bed, he kissed her forehead gently. "Sleep well, my little one," he whispered. "No one can touch our happiness. Not the past, not anyone." Anya smiled, eyes already heavy with sleep. "Good night, Papa," she murmured. Alone, Armin sat by the window, looking at the city lights. The envelope was on the table beside him, but he no longer felt its weight. He understood the lessons it carried: truth, love, and the courage to face darkness head-on. He thought of Amina and felt a deep, quiet peace. She had loved them fiercely, even in secret, and that love had guided him through the storm. Now, it was his turn to protect that love, not as a memory of betrayal, but as a living promise to his daughter. The night was calm, and the city slept under a blanket of stars. Armin closed his eyes and breathed deeply. The storm had passed, leaving strength in its wake. He had faced the shadows, uncovered the truth, and kept his family safe. And in that moment, he knew that no matter what came next, he would never again be a man waiting helplessly. He was a father who had faced betrayal, embraced truth, and emerged stronger. And together, he and Anya would move forward, unafraid, carrying the light of love into every tomorrow.